Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about two of the strongest races in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. In fact, I would say that these two races are the strongest races in the game flat out. I mean, there's plenty of good races, like you think of the Greenskins, you think of the Chaos Dwarves, you think of the High Elves, you think of the Dark Elves, especially after their rework with their economy. You have pretty powerful races. Warriors of Chaos and Wood Elves are in a completely different tier. And this is really a question. Are the Wood Elves and Warriors of Chaos very strong races, or are they strong races but also very, very boring to play? Like, are they just an S-tier races, or are they just awful to play because they're too ridiculously powerful? Now, I'm not saying that they should be nerfed. That's kind of the problem because of the way they're designed. Like, what would you nerf? Their unit roster? That wouldn't work for a lot of reasons. Their recruitment capacity, their economy. I mean, it's not like they have great economies either. They're not necessarily rolling in cash from like their baseline economy, though they can certainly get a lot through their diplomacy mechanics. Like, in order to quote-unquote nerf them, you'd probably have to overhaul them. Their strength is intrinsically tied to their campaign mechanics. But let's look at what makes both the Wood Elves and the Warriors of Chaos very strong. They're actually quite similar in a lot of ways. So first off, climate. Every bit of climate is suitable in either a Warriors of Chaos campaign or a Wood Elf campaign. You have a ridiculous amount of campaign flexibility because of that. Like, you can go anywhere on the map and conquer any piece of territory and you won't suffer for it. Though, of course, you don't care about any random piece of territory. You care either about the big trees if you're playing a Wood Elf, or you care about dark fortresses if you're playing Warriors of Chaos. Every other bit of territory is just up for sale, because you can certainly take every other bit of territory, but you won't get anything from it. Trade resources at most. You're going to generally get a lot more if you're trading away that territory, either to your vassals as the Warriors of Chaos, or military allies if you're playing the Wood Elves. Like over here I had a military alliance with Katep. He broke it off because a faction declared war on me and he refused to join that war. But I certainly was able to get a lot out of this particular alliance. And keep in mind, Katep is not necessarily a great person to do this with, because he'll only give you a limited amount of money through diplomatic agreements. Though at this point I'm generating a decent amount of trade income from trade with him. Both Wood Elves and Warriors of Chaos are actually great at diplomacy, though there you have one of the first problems. Diplomacy does work quite well in Warhammer 3. The issue is the AI does not work so well in Warhammer 3. Its decision making on the campaign map is pretty awful at the best of times. Like, it doesn't have any solid conquest plan, it doesn't have any solid plan in general on the campaign map, and you're certainly running in circles around AI if you're playing either Warriors of Chaos or Wood Elves. Now, the second thing that makes them very, very strong as races is the fact that they only care about the big trees or the dark fortresses, and that means they genuinely can't lose. The big trees don't have necessarily the most powerful garrisons, though you can certainly buff that up, but it doesn't necessarily matter how strong the garrisons are. Though dark fortresses absolutely do have powerful garrisons, and they have such a layout that it is complete misery to attack. Or you can look at the situation over here with the Oak of Ages, where you have Ekeclaw with 3 armies over here. Even if he took all 3 armies to attack the Oak of Ages here directly, granted he only has like Haven Slaves and Clan Rats, and he destroyed one of my armies but suffered significant casualties in return. Even if he was able to take all of his armies and attack the Oak of Ages, I could probably win an auto-resolve against him. Let alone the fact if I had the proper army and it wasn't ambushed, he ambushed the army that he destroyed. If I had the proper army that wasn't ambushed, I could probably just win in a direct confrontation in auto-resolve. So you have this extremely powerful defensive situation for both Warriors of Chaos and the Wood Elves, where they genuinely can't lose, because the only territory they actually care about in any significant fashion are either the big trees or the dark fortresses. Any minor territory you care about, sure, for vassals or for growth or for healing the trees, sure, you do care about them. But for the most part, What you're really interested in, either Wood Elf or Warriors of Chaos campaign, is to hold these strategic fortresses, which have relatively powerful garrisons, more so for the Dark Fortresses than the big trees, and they're in such places that they're generally difficult to attack. The magical forests are difficult to attack. The Dark Fortresses, a lot of them, are in strategic locations that are difficult to attack. Like, look at the jungles over here of Chan. Even moving through this area takes a very long time. Or let's even look at Lorem. You take attrition if you're moving here, and you have all of these settlements, like 5 settlements, 4 proper ones, and then the oak right next to each other. It is a nightmare to invade here, because like Ikekla, for instance, he's gonna have to deal with at least 2 factions at the same time when he's attacking over there. So it is a nightmare to try and take out either a Dark Fortress or a big tree. That makes a campaign very, very easy, because if you can't lose the if your core territory can't be attacked or threatened, then you can't lose. But even more ridiculous than that, both the Wood Elves and Warriors of Chaos have very strong legendary lords. You can think of people like Durfu or the Sisters or Draika for the Wood Elves. Then Archeon, Be'lakor, Kolek, Sigvald, Falkia, Festus, just to name a few, for the Warriors of Chaos. Powerful hero choices, regular lords that are extremely powerful. Like, look at the Ancient Treeman. He's ridiculous because he gives you 20% ward save for Treekin and low time reduction for his entire army. And then armor-piercing weapon damage for Treekin units. Yeah, that is pretty damn absurd when you're looking at the various benefits. Or the Warriors of Chaos, who literally can turn their lords into demons that are just as powerful, or almost as powerful, as the Demon Prince, who is a legendary lord. Yes, Warriors of Chaos can create legendary lords in their campaigns with their regular lords. There's an absurd level of strength in lords, in heroes, and army roster. Like, if I need to explain why the army roster of the Wood Elves is incredibly powerful, like, you have the best ranged army in the game for the Wood Elves, but with the Warriors, you have one of the best, if not the best, melee army. You also have great artillery as the Warriors of Chaos. And then there's, of course, the Warriors themselves, or the Armored Chaos Trolls, and then the Treekin. Treekin are absurd. Like, you look at Treekin. These guys have insane level of morale. They cause fear. They're very resistant to physical damage. They're very resistant to missiles. If an Ancient Treeman is leading them, they get a massive amount of ward save. You genuinely cannot lose a battle if you have a full stack of Treekin. Like, it's extremely difficult to defeat these guys. This is what makes dealing with Draika such a nightmare in every campaign. So there's an insane level of power for both Warriors of Chaos and Wood Elves, between their settlements, the climate types, their armies, their lords, their heroes, just their campaign mechanics in general. And finally, there's the diplomatic aspect as well. It is pretty easy in either a Warriors of Chaos campaign or a Wood Elf campaign to make dozens and dozens of military allies. Now, in this case, I don't have that many, sure, though I do have pretty good deals with quite a few factions, but the ones I do have, they're pretty damn, like the one I do have is pretty damn strong, because I have the Western Provinces as a military ally, and the Western Provinces can get a good deal of military prowess. Like, he's got the stack over here, another stack over here, a third stack on this side. If you're playing Warriors, it's even more ridiculous because you will always get vassals, and imagine vassalizing Grimoire. Though in this case I had more military allies, I just broke it because, well, various things did end up happening in this campaign that ruined my reliability rating. And having those kind of allies means that you're even under less threat than you might be initially. Depends which campaign you're playing as, depends which legendary lord you're playing as, but you will always have vassals and allies if you're playing either Wood Elves or Warriors of Chaos. And that means they can do a lot of the fighting for you, because again, you don't care about other settlements with the exception of the Dark Fortresses or the big trees. And so you can take a lot of territory, sell it, get a lot of money in your campaign to the point where you're maintaining a lot of armies very, very quickly. Like over here, I had 3 full stacks until, well, Ikiclad wiped out one of them, my Legendary Lord one, but I still have 2 stacks. These 2 stacks are quite good at the moment. And the sisters had a really powerful army themselves until I got ambushed by Ikiclad. Just unfortunate, but it does happen. But very rarely will you lose it. And here's the thing, even losing that, it doesn't matter, because it's like, okay, I lost an army. Big freaking deal. I'll just get another one. In fact, the armies that I'm going to get at this point are going to be even more powerful as I'm getting land, as I'm doing a ritual over here, and I'm looking to do another ritual over here. You just end up in such a strong position that you've literally won your campaign if you're playing a Wood Elf or a Warrior of Chaos from turn 1. So, my question stands. Are they S tier as races, or are they just really boring and awful to play? Or are they great to play for a couple of times, because, hey, who doesn't enjoy a steamroller campaign, but then get really boring and dull after a couple of those campaigns? Let me know what you think. I'll link the poll that I've done on the subject in the description, in the comments. I do want to hear your opinions. Stay tuned for more. Costin signing out.